things, but not the least of which were the people that work there and the people that live here have moved here because they have jobs at our local libraries. I guess what I'd like to know is how many positions will be lost overall, number one, and number two, how much money will be saved, how much money will not be paid to the employees when we change over from the county, which I'm sure pays the professional people pretty well, to LSI, who knows what, they'll pay whatever they can because they're for profit, so they're going to pay as low as possible. And sometimes that's a service. So do you have those figures where we can say?
I don't have the figures, but I will say it is still a municipal library. It's going to be a city library. We've hired a company who can come in and stick to the bottom line. They are not tied to some of the issues of unions and pensions that we run into. And with regard to how many positions there are, I hate the thought of people losing jobs anywhere. But if you walk through Sacramento, through the Capitol building, there are probably a lot of people who could move elsewhere that our tax dollars are going. And unfortunately, if we're going to make some serious changes in government, not just locally but across the country, that's going to be one of the places where they come. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, I hear about that, and I hate the thought of somebody losing their job. But that's going to be part of it. What the wages are, I'm not exactly sure. I know that they are competitive. They will hire professionals, and if we don't like the way it's running, we can certainly make a change.
Well, that would be hopeful that we would be able to get those figures for the people so that we would see.
You know what, Mr. Boydston, I will have a staff member get that information to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yep.
You said that you're going to save $400,000 every year by running your own library.
It'll be a lot more than that.
Okay. And you also said if you can't collect the county tax, so what? They don't need it. That was said at the August 24th council meeting.
No, that's not the case. It's not a so what, they don't need it. The county.
It was said, though, that they don't need it.
They being the county?
The city council said. When it was asked, do we
even without that tax, we would still be able to do a more efficient job of running the libraries.
Then why do we need a new tax?
We wouldn't need a new tax. It's one of the things that they're going to look at. And like I mentioned, the last time there was an election, 81% of the people who voted said that they wanted to pay that extra money. So that's something to take into consideration, what those people voted for. So there is no decision to make a new tax. It's something that's out there.
I'd also like to know if the ad hoc committee took a look at the library materials that are there, all the databases, to see what actually does exist.
We have looked at it, and it's actually one of the exciting things that we're going to be able to do is essentially an audit of what we have in our libraries, looking carefully at what we have on the shelves, what we have available, what's checked out from our libraries, and what's being brought in from other libraries. And that's going to give us a good look at, do we have the right materials in the library? Or do we have things that are sitting there that nobody's checking out so that they need to be replaced? And that's really important. When I hear over and over again that the book I need they don't have, and I have to order it online and it has to come in. Maybe at some point we need to look at what are those books and should we be buying those books. We're going to have an expanded book budget, 22% higher than we have now, so that the librarians have the ability to say, wow, I've had 5 people come in and ask for this, let's get this book, whether it's an old title or a new title. So that's a huge thing that we want to do, is look at exactly what we have on the shelves and what's being in circulation.
Yes, I was wondering if you could name the locations of where you're going to be putting the city libraries, and are you confident that the Valencia Library that could be taken over, the building?
Well, at this point, it's the new Old Town New Hall Library that's under construction, the Joanne Darcy Library. So those are the 2 existing. The Valencia Library, the plan at this point is to buy that library from the county, and it's too small. We've outgrown the libraries that we have already. So that's something that I hope that this advisory committee will look at as we go into the future. We are way behind on what we should have regarding library services. And so where do we need to put another library? Does there need to be one, at another place, maybe Canyon Country? Do we need to go to Saugus? We're short library facilities as it is. So at this time, the plan is to use the existing Valencia site, and I hope in the near future the economy turns around and we're able to build another site.
This is a related question, and forgive me if everybody knows this. Where is the new library that's being built? Where are the funds coming for it? And who owns the property? Where did we get the property?
The library is in Old Town Newhall, where Main Street hits Lyons.
The old library?
The new library.
Okay, this is not the old library we're talking about. Oh, it's down the street. Okay.
Yes, the old one is down the street.
Right.
The new one is redevelopment funds. It's part of the whole redevelopment of Old Town Newhall. And there's going to be lots of parking there. It's going to be easily accessible. It's going to be, like I said, 30,000 square feet. We'll have all of the technology that we need. We've done a lot of research about what needs to go into this library, and our hope is that people will travel from all parts of the county, or of our community at least, probably the county too, to visit the library, and then bringing traffic and eyeballs into Old Town Newhall. I suspect a lot of people that maybe have never been there. So this is part of what we're hoping to see in this revitalization for the Old Town area.
And the redevelopment money was set aside before, and whose property was it?
I can have somebody give you a little bit more detail on this, but redevelopment is a special tax that's set aside that is now in jeopardy with the governor's budget proposal, but yeah, that's where that is. But I can have somebody get you some more specific information.
Okay, I was just curious who sold it, and you know, I'm just trying to figure out where it came from. Thank you.
You know what, Mrs. Hanashiro, we're not sure what it means, and that's what we're watching really carefully, what his budget proposal, I mean, it's not just us, it's schools, everybody's looking to see what this is going to mean, and redevelopment is something that we're going to fight really hard for. We're not the only community that's relying on it, so I'm not sure where that's going to go at this point. Oh, actually, Kevin, you're the perfect person to talk about it, because he is on that. Do you want to...
In the redevelopment committee, the Newhall redevelopment committee, we've been discussing the governor's budget, and the funds for the library have already been allocated, are already signed and penned. The monies that the government will be taking are future projects, like the planned turnabout could be very difficult in downtown Newhall, but all the funds for the library, as well as everything that's been completed on this streetscape and what's to come, are already signed money. That's not going anywhere.
Well, hold on now. Let me ask you a question then. I can see in the budget that the amount of money for the new Newhall Library is funded by $19 million worth of bonds. The revenue stream for those bonds, I would assume, was anticipated to be redevelopment money.
I believe so. You know, and Darren Hernandez is here. Darren, do you want to answer that for me?
Yes. Darren Hernandez with the city. The new Newhall Library, the 30,000 square foot library that you see pictured there, it's fully designed. It has been bid. We have a contract to build it, and every penny required to build it is in the bank. We borrowed that money 3 years ago. We borrowed against the revenue of the redevelopment agency, and by law, not just by law, but by the federal Constitution, that is considered a contract which cannot be impaired by the governor's budget. So while the governor is seeking to take other redevelopment money and redirect it to help solve the state's budget deficit, they cannot take the money that is pledged, the redevelopment revenue that is pledged to pay those bonds. So there's nothing that the governor can do that would jeopardize the construction of that library. That money is sitting in the bank. It's ready to be spent, and like Councilmember Ender, Mayor Pro Tem Ender mentioned, that library will open in mid-2012.
Thank you, Darren. You saved me from another Ender math debacle. Can I take a couple more questions before I let you get back to other business?
Yes, I have one. I'm also on the advisory council, and I brought this up last week, and the answer was sort of iffy. Well, I have two things. Who else besides yourself and Marcia was on the ad hoc committee? That's one. And the one that I brought up last week is, it seems like we're being asked, and this is fine, I'm glad I'm on this committee, but we seem to be the way it seems is we're going to be saying what we want in our library. What kind of things should we have in our library? What should we be doing? What should the programs be? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, it seems to me that you've already signed a contract with LSSI, and even if I read the contract, I wouldn't understand all the gobbledygook lawyer stuff. Did we not already tell them what we want? And was that not part of the the RFP thing? Would say we want this, this, and this. Basically, it would be very simple. We want what we have now, not less, maybe more, but I can't see how you can have more with less money going into it. So my question is, who else besides you and Marcia was on the committee? And two, was this contract signed a general thing? Well, you'll do something to run the library, and we'll tell you what later on. It seems strange to me.
Marcia and I are the two council members on the committee, and there are various staff members who provide expertise based on their area of expertise. Darren Hernandez has been involved from the very beginning. Yes, and we can get that to you too. I'm sorry. You know, it sort of depends on what we're talking about. When we're discussing the New Hall Library, we have people come in from the building department because we're talking about construction. We were careful with the contract with LSSI that we pretty much asked for the moon and the stars, but we didn't say what color we wanted things and where they were going to be hung. That's what we want this committee to talk about. And I think I alluded to earlier, I'm hoping that you will be able to come to us and say, boy, we really have a deficit of programs for teens, or we need to get seniors more plugged into technology. I mean, those kinds of things that we're looking at, what we can do in the programs. And do not tell my dad I said that, because he thinks he thinks he's Bill Gates. So yeah, seniors know everything about technology, Dad, if you're watching. But I'm hoping that it can develop the programs that we're having, and we have the control to do what we want with it. LSSI will work for us. So your committee is very important to me. I know you're going through a real long planning process, and it's very, you know, doing the touchy-feely stuff right now. But what we get out of that is really going to guide us as we move ahead. Did that answer your question? Not really. I mean, yes, they have to, it will be absolutely at least what we have, but that's not really good enough for me, so it will be better. And we will have more money than we had before, so we will be able to do more things.
Well, but then you have, what was it? I read somewhere, it was in one of the Signal articles, that LSSI had guaranteed that, or said that they would be hiring the equivalent of 57 full-time people. That could be, I mean, I think Deanna here said something, there would be 4 professional people. 4 from 57, what do you have, 52, whatever it is. The rest of them could all be part-time people. I mean, how can they possibly know us in our library if they're not full-time professional people? And if that's how they're saving their money, it's not going to help.
Well, that's what we expect, and we're not going to accept anything less. If they put 4 interns to run the whole library and there's no professionals in there, that's going to be glaringly obvious immediately and will be rectified. We are not entering into this to do anything other than gold standard. That's what we expect from our parks. That's what we expect from everything we do. As you can see, the process of getting there is not always easy, but we're going to get there. So I'm getting the hook over here. I really appreciate this. Like I said before, I'd be so happy if I left here and you were all happy, and I know you won't be, but stick with us through this process because we're going to get there, and I really think in the end we're going to be really, really happy with what our library system looks like. So thank you very much.
Laurie, if you can.